and Mike is from the Water and Wildlife Habitat Trust.
Start any time. Well, firstly, I'd just like to thank the Council for taking the time to hear the Water and Wildlife Habitat Trust's recommendation on how you may improve your investment and outcomes in the 22-23 annual plan. The Water and Wildlife Habitat Trust, it's a charitable trust, not for profit. We've been around for about 10 years. Currently got a project in the Selwyn catchment and more recently in the Otakaikino catchment within the Christchurch city. We generally work in collaborative partnership with landowners and regional and local councils. I've personally been involved in community conservation groups and activities for probably 30 years. My primary objective in making this submission on the annual plan was to try to influence the planning and decision making with the Christchurch city area towards improving waterway health, wildlife habitats, and the opportunities for community engagement and open space recreation. The key propositions in our submission is that Council and its community has a visionary plans for the Otakaro Avon Corridor Regeneration Program, including the riparian green spine, and planned spending of over $300 million over the next 10 years. We congratulate Council on that initiative. However, most of the investment in that area, on that catchment, is in improving catchments and waterways, goes into physical infrastructure, such as flood detention basins or artificial wetlands, when there's many kilometres of riparian zones along our waterways that are in need of weed control and indigenous vegetation. The ecological health of our city's waterways, particularly the Avon and Heathcote catchments, are poor and need of improvement. The Otakaikino and Stick catchments and their waterways are in better condition, but that needs to be preserved and improved over time. Council and its community are proposing a world-class city national park, yet given the comparatively small area of existing indigenous bush, this is a huge challenge. The science tells us that improving our control of plant and animal pests and restoring indigenous riparian vegetation along our waterways is the key to healthy waterways. The Christchurch community cares for our natural environment and the good quality of life that this provides. Yet the supply of council grant funding to community groups is well below the demand for financial support for community-based ecological restoration. Most community grant schemes are oversubscribed maybe 2 to 3 times, meaning there's lots of lost opportunities to build social and natural capital. While the Council's Biodiversity Partnership Fund, Strengthening Communities Funds, Discretionary Response Funds and other community grant schemes are much appreciated, the overall investment is not enough to empower strong community-based actions on the ground and associated capacity building and education, particularly with our younger generation. Many community conservation groups are now struggling for volunteers and resources, and from the effects of COVID and increasing inflation. They need more support to sustain and increase their contribution to making Christchurch more livable and hopefully a national park city. Council has in the past demonstrated sensitivity to these challenges by increasing discretionary funding to community boards and for earthquake resilience. So now is the time to better appreciate and better support our many community groups wanting to contribute to healthy catchments and waterways, and for more opportunities for open space recreation. My submission also includes a number of action items which we'd like you to consider, particularly towards improving erosion and sediment control and promoting water-sensitive urban design, including increased education, regulation, monitoring and enforcement action. Enhancing waterway and catchment ecosystem health, including reducing mass loads and frequency of sewage overflows in high rainfall events is important, and reducing urban contaminants of metals, nutrients and pathogens, and for planning climate change and sea level rise. And lastly, we need to be ensuring that there is public health safety in our drinking water and the water contact recreational activities, including the protection from the risk of colorectal cancers and probably the culling of Canadian geese along our waterways. Yes, these proposals to better support ratepayers and their families to restore ecological and lifestyle values of Christchurch will cost more money from revenue and borrowings. The Trust recommends an additional 0.3% residential rates increase as an environmental enhancement levy. As an alternative would be the reallocation of existing funds within budget to provide those funds towards community activities. This will ensure the community can contribute their valuable time and passion to making Christchurch a more livable national park city and a wonderful Avon Otakaro Green Corridor area and our healthy waterways. I would probably add the pest-free Banks Peninsula. So again, I would thank you for considering our submission and look forward to your response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a theme emerging here, you know, in terms of the significance of the partnership, and you mentioned building social and natural capital, and I think the two go hand in glove. So thank you for that. Do I have any questions from councillors? I think there's a lot of nodding going around the room. No. Okay, look, thank you very much, Mike, for taking the trouble, one, to make a submission, but personally to come in and submit to the council. It's valuable. Thank you. The next one is Ken